Welcome to Keimino, where we help writers build a following for themselves and their stories so it's easier to sell their scripts to producers. Let's jump right in. Today, I want to just jump into this whole idea of casting a project before you've written it. Now, I'm not talking about casting a project as going and getting actors and saying, will you play this role? If they say yes, you don't want those actors. If they say no, chances are they're probably more established than your script. But what I'm talking about is choosing how each character is a different person in your life that you know. Now, I would refrain from using people like Ryan Reynolds or Matt Damon and all of them because you don't actually know them. You know what their persona is, and if you're looking for a shallow level script, by all means, go after Ryan Reynolds and Matt Damon as the characters in your script. But if you want to carry real depth into your script, the first thing you need to do is cast real people in your roles. So don't choose me because you don't know me. Choose your wife, choose your son, choose your brother, your sister, your neighbor down the street, the pastor of your church. They don't need to be in the same life situation, but they do need to have somebody that will make the same decisions they will. This way, you will bring that authenticity and depth to every single character. Having a real person in mind creates natural mannerisms, speech patterns, and emotional logic that they can follow no matter what happens. There's times when someone says something to my brother, I'm like, ooh, all right, that's not a good idea. Let's see where this goes because I know how my brother's going to react. And what we're doing is we're trying to create a person that will react a certain way so that we can create the most interesting situations for that person. If you know someone who's an egotistical maniac, then you're going to want to throw them into a story with another egotistical maniac because that's just fun. And so you can have two people that are exactly the same going at each other, but you don't want all of your characters exactly the same. And comes to my next point is what it does is it brings consistency for you. So when you're bringing a character, it doesn't all sound like the same person. What it will do is it will allow the character to have different function, talk differently, have different speech patterns, have different vocal fries. Like it will allow you to imagine what this character sounds like so that when they say something, you're like, it will sound better if I choose this person because they've got a British accent or whatever. But you know what they sound like every time you write. And when you picture this person, it's easier to predict how they will react in those specific situations. It helps keep the character consistent in their behavior and their decisions. And when they grow or change, then they grow and change in a real way. And that brings me to my third point, is emotional connection. When you're writing, if you're not emotionally connected to your characters, neither will the people watching or reading your script. Right? So what you want to do is if you can create these people in your life and write them into your script, one, it'll give you an idea of the authenticity of these characters, but what comes with authenticity is connection. And you want people to be able to connect to your characters so that they can actually affect the story, so that we can go on the highs with you, we can go on the lows with you. But if they're shallow people like Ryan Reynolds or a Matt Damon, and I'm not saying they're shallow, but what I am saying is your perception of them will be, because you don't know how they actually act. You don't know, is Ryan Reynolds an introvert or an extrovert? You don't know that. So they're not a good group of people to write with. That's why I say your mom, your brother, the people close to you, because you know how they're going to react, you know how they're going to move forward. And it often brings more empathy from the character and to the character. And that will just be good for your story. The next is creative constraints. All right. Ironically, limiting can boost the creativity. So it's funny when you break off restraints, it's hard to imagine what the people will do. It's hard to sit there and go, man, if I had $1 million in the world, if I had $30 billion given to me, what would you do with it? And people are like, well, I'd pay off my house. And then I'm like, okay, that's like $200,000, $500,000. Now what? People don't know because now the options are limited. But if I said, I'm going to give you $150,000, what are you going to do with it? People are like, well, I'm going to buy a car. I'm going to buy this, a big screen TV. Maybe I'll put 70 grand in a savings account. All of a sudden, they have all of these ideas. You are the same way as a writer. You want those creative constraints so that you can actually write better stories, right? The next one is speed. It becomes faster for you to write your script, faster for you to write your story if you are putting those constraints on, and those constraints are those people that you've chosen. Man, they wouldn't do that. My brother would never do that. My brother would never go to a church. Well, then you know that, one, I would throw a pastor in that story because it's just fun. But two, then you know he's not going to go to a church, but you also know what he's going to do. And you know that when put in a life or death situation, is he the kind of person who's going to give up his life? Or is he the kind of person that's gonna try and save his own skin? And these are all situations. It just makes the decision making for writing faster. Next is surprise. We all hear these stories about how these big authors are surprised by their characters when their characters do this or do that, and people who don't know writing very well are like, man, how could they be surprised? They're the writers. But when they cast these people in their story to begin with, it allows the characters to develop faster. It allows the story to develop faster. It allows things to happen while you're writing that you're like, oh my goodness, my character just said that. I was writing a story about a superhero. Surprise, surprise. It's not like we've ever seen one of those. And I was using a friend of mine as the example. And my friend is super sarcastic. And so everything that came out of this guy's mouth was sarcastic. This character, it was sarcasm, sarcasm, sarcasm. And then and then when the authenticity came, it was like this cute sarcasm. And it was really fun to read. But he made jokes that I was shocked that were coming out of my fingers. I did not expect him to make these jokes, not because they were bad jokes, but it just wasn't my type of humor. And it was so easy that I was so excited I had written this and I went and told my wife, and I was like, you got to hear this, you got to hear this. And I told the joke, and she's like, where did that come from? And I had no idea, because the character came up with that and surprised me with that. They'll also do things that you don't expect them to do, whether they're tipping the bartender an exuberant amount just to get his attention, or they're flirting with every girl they see, that you'd be like, oh, well, I didn't expect that kind of character to be that way. But that's what happens, and that's the surprise that I'm talking about, because this is what you want. When the characters surprise you, chances are they're going to surprise everybody reading the script or watching the movie. And that just is a great result for good content, right? The last one is it helps with casting. Now, everyone's going to be like, but you said we're not casting. Yeah, you're not. But when you have a dream team, I remember watching Good Will Hunting, and I had to study it in film school. And what I thought was really, really good about that is you had the two main actors, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, and they're friends in real life, and they're trying to see what it takes to make it, and they're writing the script. And then they have these really good stories, and they send it to Robin Williams, and Robin Williams jumps on board. Now, I don't know if Robin Williams was the person that they wanted, but he's the person they got, and he made that movie so good because of his improvisational skills. Now, Matt Damon, they probably weren't expecting to get Robin Williams, but they were sitting there going, man, if we get Robin Williams, this is going to be the best thing ever. And so they had that in mind, but they had no clue what it would bring to the film. And Good Will Hunting is Good Will Hunting because of Robin Williams. Now, when you're casting a film, and I've done a little bit of casting, not a ton, but when you're casting a film, you want to have an idea of what to write in your film, in your casting breakdown. And that comes from who you cast when you were writing. Okay? So if you're writing a film and you cast, I'm going to say Ryan Reynolds because he's fun and he's popular, and why not use someone who's fun and popular? But you're casting Ryan Reynolds, now you've got this, so he's about 6 feet tall, he's got a scruffy beard, wait a minute, he looks like me. Um, he's got a certain hairstyle, but he's got the personality, and you can write all of that in the casting profile. And what it'll do is when your director or producer is moving to the next step where they're looking to cast the project, they know exactly who they're going to choose. And if you have, most of us are writing small films that aren't very big yet, or we'll see what happens with them. Uh, but what we want to do is if we can create those characters right from the beginning, it's easy. It makes the rest of the process so much easier. Enjoy. I hope that helps. And thank you for watching Keimino's videos.